Hello. Welcome to episode 27 of the AKS
Is
Knit
it
and
really this
Crochet.
time?
Yeah, for real.
Okay.
Honest to goodness. See, last week I said it was 27, but I was utterly wrong. It was 26 last week. But this is genuinely
This is
27.
7.
Yeah, 27. This is
Not
episode
26-7.
episode 27. 27. Anyway, I'm Lisa, the very sensible one.
Is that what you think you are?
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm Chris, the actually sensible one. That's okay.
Uh-huh.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You know how they say if someone's like delusional, don't like burst the delusion because then they get all violent. So we're
I
just gonna
agree.
go with,
I
this
agree.
is the sensible one.
Mhm. Moving on. What would you like to talk about today, dear sister?
I don't know. I'm tired.
I know we had a bit of an adventure today.
It's hot. It's really hot out. Yeah. I don't know. Is that true that the heat makes you feel tired, or do we just believe that so that we get tired when we're out in the heat?
No, your body has to work a little harder when it's hot.
Because
It's got to keep you in equilibrium.
it's very warm today.
But we had a bit of an outing. Our niece is here visiting with us, and we had to go out looking for Pokemon cards.
Can you imagine? And this one here, just as excited as our niece. I mean,
the game's really fun.
They were bootlegging it. They didn't have enough energy cards, and so they were using regular playing cards to like bootstrap some energy cards. Now they have real energy cards.
Let me tell you how to bootstrap an energy card should you need it, just in case you have some Pokemon issues in your life. All you need to do is get some playing cards and write the letter of the type of energy on the card. And you can just beef up your energy card as much as you need.
It was a little sad. At first, they were going to draw a board because they didn't have that. Then Lisa found one, the mat.
Mm-hmm.
They were really ready to just bootleg their whole Poke experience. So I took them to the store and got them like some like legit stuff because it was sad. And then they had to watch videos to learn how to play because they didn't know what they was doing. You know what? Y'all was just wilding last night. Oh my God.
We got a Pokemon.
As we like go through the bullet points, it's just like, oh.
Yeah. We were not as familiar with the game as we could have been. So we bootlegged the rules too and made them work. And had a blast. Matter of fact, if you check our Instagram, you will see our play mat.
Not with the playing cards on it. The deck, the regular.
Yeah. Because we was playing. Just going for it. I am not ashamed of making my game work.
I'm super embarrassed. Like I can't even. Okay.
But we got a couple of decks today and they're pretty snazzy.
And you can spend whatever you want on Pokemon cards. They had some little decks that was like $4, and then they had something in a box that was like $60. I was like, really?
Oh yeah.
And then the woman at the store was like, she pokies too, and she collects the cards, and she has special sleeves for some of her cards. And I was just like, stop it. Is this really what's happening
you should
out
see
there?
The sleeves. The sleeves can be anything you want them to be. And in tournament, you have to play in the sleeve.
I don't want this to be a thing. And I don't want her to know so much about it. She just said tournament. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, girl. It's like that. Girls who game. #. So we can see who's like who's the party director aunt. Yep. I'm the party director.
I am tons of fun, damn it.
Yep. Why, yes, you are.
I just don't pokey. I don't understand it at all. But the cards are cute.
They are. They actually have beautiful artwork on them. But anyway, that's our Pokey adventure. I am working on my socks. Alvar.
Are we almost done with the socks? I feel like we've been socking for a minute.
Whatever. Okay, whatever.
Like,
These are my Alvar socks from 52 Weeks of Socks.
Now they both have heels?
Which both have heels now. I do the Fish Kiss heel. Just a regulation 50 Fish Kiss heel. And I absolutely love how the lines of Intarsia are crossing the stripes in the self-striping yarn. I just love that. Also, the intarsia continues around the back side of the sock.
Oh,
So it's just going to ring the leg.
that seems like a lot of work.
Now, typically what I do with socks is when I make my vanilla sock, I don't know how long these socks are supposed to be, but when I make a vanilla sock, and I make a lot of vanilla socks, I have made a lot of vanilla socks, is I knit the leg to be the length of the foot, of my foot, up until the toe box. So my toe starts here, and that's where the leg is going to stop. And I typically knit the cuff the same length as the toe. And it just gives me a balanced, beautiful looking sock pretty much every time. And I think that that's a good formula for most people because it will be in scale to you as a person. And I like my socks to be crew length, and that yields me a crew length sock every time. So I've got a little ways to go on this one up to about here if I make it a crew length sock. If I make it a shorty sock, I might do it to about here. So about half the length of the foot. And I am working these in Universal Yarns Angora lace, and I just want to make socks with this stuff from now on. The way it feels is so luxurious. That Angora is doing something.
It's definitely giving some halo.
It's got halo, but feel it. It's just got this delicious feel.
This yarn,
it feels so nice.
It's discontinued.
Yeah,
I don't know what they were thinking.
If you find any, I have some in the shop online. If you find some elsewhere, snap it up because Mom made a whole sweater out of it, and she's actually sewing that together now. When she's done with it, I'm gonna ask her to come on and talk about her sweater. Her sweater is beautiful. It feels great.
Tell Mom that? Or yeah, you just like deciding this now. No, she gonna come on here and talk about this sweater.
I've asked her about it. Yeah.
Okay. Did she say yes? Because she usually doesn't.
Yeah. She said yes. She would talk about it. Okay. She was like, "Oh,
Mom doesn't like to do the whole camera thing."
Yeah.
And the negotiations that go on behind the scenes can be quite intense.
It's mostly begging. It's not really negotiations. Yeah, it's not like negotiations is a strong word for what actually happens. But love it. Oh, the only other thing I have been doing is I have been cutting all of the yarn. So these initial gray strips, these are the first gray strips that I started with, right? They were about 6 feet long when I started. And I still had the background yarn attached to the ball. Hated it. It created tangles and knots like you wouldn't believe. So what I started doing is just cutting my background yarn so I can pull it up as much as I need. As you see, it's not tangling. When I need it, it's there. And I've been joining it. And I found there was this old pattern that the Knitmore girls did years ago called a Bifrost scarf. And it came up in my, I think on Instagram or Twitter. I saw it again recently and I was like, oh, that's nice. And that's a free pattern. So, if it's a free pattern, I'm going to go look. And it talked about this join. Don't ask me what they call it. I have already forgotten. But I will talk about it more substantively when I'm better prepared to talk about it. So probably next week. But basically what you do is you take the yarn, right? And I'm going to use 2 different colors so it's going to be easy to see. You take one end, wrap it around the other end, and you kind of loop them together like this. So it kind of looks like you're going to rush and join it, but I'm not going to rush and join it. I'm just going to knit straight over the 2 ends and the join spot in the middle. The loose ends are going to stick out of the work. And when I knit over them, I'm just going to snip them short. And that's the end of that. So even though I am breaking this yarn all the time, I have no ends to weave in. So that is very exciting. And I will look up and see what this join is called. Because so far, and I was wondering, oh, it's going to make a thicker spot in the work. It's not noticeable. I think, especially if you're working on a fine yarn.
Could you do that with a bulky yarn?
I don't know how it would look on a bulky yarn, but something this fine, it is a non-issue. And typically I would use magic knots, but on the bottoms of socks and the heels of socks, something that's going to press against your foot in a shoe, I wouldn't do the magic knot. But this join that's new to me, loving it, and that's what I've been doing. And it's not creating any more ends. The ends that are there, I just snip off. So that's what's up with my socks. Very happy. What's going on with your projects?
So I'm still working on my 2-piece outfit. And I just caked up the rest of the yarn. I started the skirt.
Oh wow.
So this is the top of the skirt. That's my waistband, so that's single crochet. And then this part I'm doing alternating rows of half double and single so that the bottom doesn't get wider too much faster than the top. And so it's going to be a short skirt. It's going to be above the knee. And I finished my top technically, except
why is everything technically today?
Because I am going to, do a little detail on it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But so this is my tank top. So I found some ribbon. I'm really excited about. So we went to Joann first, and I just got this plain yellow stuff, right? Which is not bad, right? See?
Yeah, that's better.
But then we went to, because I was really looking for something green, but Joann didn't have the right shade of green. So we went to Michael's, and I found this. And I think it's perfect.
Oh yeah.
But this ribbon has wire on the edges, because it's that wire that you can like do shapes with.
Oh.
So I just yanked the wire out. It turns out it's actually super easy to get the wire out. You just take one of the ribbons. So I took the wire out and I did like so, and I stitched these on as my shoulder straps. And I really love how that stripe kind of mimics what's happening with the gradient.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy. I just did a row of single crochet around the top. If I do this top again, which I probably will, what I would do is all singles here, alternate half doubles and singles here, but then do a little more of singles, just singles at the top, so it comes in a little bit more at the top, because I had to do this row of single crochet to bring it in a little bit, because up here where it's like right under the arm, it is kind of wide. So
okay,
instead I would just alternate the sizes of the stitches, bottom, go bigger in the middle, and then again just do single crochets at the top to bring the top in a little bit. But I think it actually fits really well. So just doing those singles at the top was fine. And I might do a little like detail with the other ribbon that I got and just do something. Might do something like so. Hold that strap.
Yeah.
And just attach the ribbon at where the shoulder strap meets the top, and just make it like super girly. And I just took needle thread, sewed these straps on. It looks awful. I haven't hand stitched anything in 7 million years. So, but that part that you can't see the part where you can tell it's like really bad, because on the front here you can't see the sewing thread. It's like so small. But yeah, so it turns out I'm a terrible hand sewer.
It takes practice.
And I'm hoping I'll get better at that, because
it takes practice like everything else.
Nothing I make should be turned inside out. We just don't want to see some things.
Can I ask whose make should be turned inside out?
No, sometimes like you buy something at a store and your edges are all nice and even and stuff. And I'm sure there are tailors and couturiers out there who are really, everything is really fine work.
Yeah.
That's not what I do. I just want to be honest about that. I just get it to a state where it's wearable.
There you go.
That is the goal.
Wearability.
So that is what I have done here. So it's going to be a cute little matching top and skirt. And I'm feeling just very 2-piece set right now. I'm looking at all of my yarns and I'm like, what else can I use to make a cute little 2-piece set? Because I might need a few more of these. And this one's going pretty quickly because it's DK weight yarn. happy about that. But I like to work in fingering
Fingering
weight.
weight, yep.
So I'm going to have to do at least 1 2-piece set out of some fingering weight yarn. But that is my current whip because my silk dress is on. This took over my mind. So the silk dress is currently on hold just until I finish.
You're the 2-piece sets zombie?
You know, see what happened was. It was really after we went to Target and I saw some in the store, but they honestly didn't look that great. They looked a little cheapish.
Do you remember that whole debate about cheap crochet garments? I'm still wondering if people mistook those things for actual crochet.
I don't know, because they weren't.
Because they were not crochet. But if you just looked at them walking by, you would think they were. It wasn't until we really walked up on them and looked at them closely, we were like, oh, this is not crochet.
Right. I don't know. They were cute enough that I was inspired by the idea, but not cute enough that I wanted to buy those. So, I'm making my own, and I'm very happy.
There you go. That's one way to do it.
I know, right? It's a little more time consuming because I could have left Target that day with 3 outfits.
I know you could have. But it's like I told people, if you want stuff fast, go to Target.
Honey.
They got it. They do. But if you want something exactly what you wanted, because nothing we saw in Target looked like what you're making.
I love the gradient yarn.
Yeah.
It's just, and the colors, they're so spring. They're absolutely perfect. I'm happy. Making stuff makes me like super happy.
Well, yeah. Hello. Yes.
So, you and your non-monogamous self have another project?
I do. Because I am non-monogamous. Well, you know what? Technically speaking, this project has been on my mind for a while. I wanted to do a vest.
On your mind and on your needles is 2 different things. So, no.
I'll put a link to the pattern in the description bar, but it's called the Any Day Vest. And I've been thinking about this vest as both a sweater and a vest. I did not know there was an Any Day Vest pattern, but I had fallen in love with the Any Day sweater. And when I was like looking around, because I was like, oh, I fell out of love with the initial vest I chose, I'm going to find another vest. And then it struck me, because I couldn't get gauge for that vest. Let me just look at the search Ravelry by gauge, because you can do that. You can search Ravelry by gauge and just pick a pattern from among the patterns that match the gauge of the yarn I have. And the yarn I have was Universal Deluxe Chunky
Deluxe.
See, she's incepted my mind, and now I have to think about it every time I want to say the name of this yarn correctly. And it was, I think, 14 stitches by 18 rows. And one of the first things that came up when I searched 14 stitches by 18 rows was the Any Day Vest. And I was like, I already love the Any Day sweater. Dun, dun, dun. Let me do it. So this is where I've gotten to thus far. Oh, this is my swatch. Now, when
that was the one that was in the bowl?
Yeah. When I'm going to do a swatch for something that's in the round, I swatch in the round. I don't typically do the speed swatch because for me, it won't give a true gauge because I'm a loose knitter to begin with, and I will probably leave way too much yarn across the back. So what I do to make a swatch that will give me the gauge is I double the number of stitches and I knit the same number of rows they called for. So they called for 14 stitches, knit for 18 rows. So I cast on 28 stitches and knit those 28 stitches for the 18 rows. And when I measured this, before I blocked it, it was exactly on point, on gauge. When I soaked it and blocked it, and by blocking it, I did not stretch it. I just laid it out and let it dry. It was just like a hair larger, but it was still well within, it would give me what I needed. So I was like, all right, let's do this. But there she goes. And it's just a little tube.
About how many skeins do you think it's going to take?
Well, in the pattern, it said in my size, it would be 500 and some odd 500 and some odd yards. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And my skeins are 120 on yards a piece. So maybe 5,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I had this skein open already, and I was swatching with it and couldn't get gauge, y'all. But here's what happened.
Yeah.
It called for a 7mm needle. I have approximately every needle in the world, starting from 000.
There's a lot of these.
I have a knot on needles. I didn't have a 7mm needle, and I had a teeny tiny meltdown.
It's an oddball size in the U.S.
It is because
that's like the 3mm hook.
Yeah. It's like what do they call it in the U.S. sizes? It's 10.75. It's 10, 10 3/4. There you have it.
Maybe you could buy one on platform 9 3/4.
Yeah, that's what I just thought that. Maybe I need to go to platform 9 3/4, see if they have needles. But I didn't have it, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna order some needles. I ordered a set of double points.
Where'd you order them
from Amazon.
And what did you do to place that order?
I joined Prime because I wanted those needles like
she did a Prime trial to get the
hurry.
needles like immediately because she was on a tear. Y'all did not understand what was happening in this household.
I was so
looking
mad.
for 7mm needles.
I was so upset because you don't know. I recently organized all my needles.
The next day she was like, well, we have Amazon Prime now if you want to watch anything. Yeah. I was like, why do we have Amazon Prime? She's like, I needed my needles.
Okay? I needed them, and I needed them bad. So Mom was saying, you should just swatch with something you already have just to see. So I was like, after I calmed down and I ordered the needles.
After she already ordered them.
Yes. And I ordered a 7mm on a 32-inch cord, and I ordered a set of 7mm double points. So my 7mm needs should be met. So I was like, okay, I have a 6.5mm. And I did not take into account that I am typically a loose knitter. And because I am typically a loose knitter and I had something really close, it was just fine.
And you still have Amazon Prime.
Yeah. 30 days, 30-day trial. So here we are. Swatched, ready to rock and roll. So I cast it on. And I knit quite a bit of the vest. And I'm really liking it.
The moral of the story is swatch before you buy.
Yeah, you might want to swatch with what you have before you buy, especially if you know. Like my other sister, Jessica, she is the super tight knitter. So she always has to go up several needle sizes. And the way you typically figure it out is you make a swatch. Nope, it's too big or it's too small. And you go up again. And actually, just working with what I had saved me one swatch. Because if I had those 7mm needles, I would have swatched with those first. It would have been too big. And I would have still had to swatch with the 6.5s. So
swatch before you buy.
Yeah, swatch before you buy. Unless, you're having a meltdown. Then you do what you got to do, okay? So this is the vest. Now, this is the right side of the vest. It's going to be reverse stockinette. But since I am working it in the round, I'm actually working on the inside. So that I can just knit in the round. Otherwise, I would have had to purl. So this is what the working side looks like, the knit side. And you don't see the center detail because it's just a knit stitch on the purl size. But I think it's going to be really nice. This wool, the yarn is 100% non-superwash wool, so it has just a lovely bounce to it. And if you feel, this is what I soaked in a Eucalan. Now, I have a higher tolerance for woolly wools than Crystal does. That's why I always hand her the thing so that, people who are sensitive can see whether or not it was something.
I have a cardigan out of this, but, I wear that over other things. But I find that since I've started crocheting with wool, I'm getting a little bit more tolerant. There's something like that Lopi ain't going to happen Not gonna happen.
Lopi is for the truly woolly.
But it's for the truly Icelandic. Like, I don't
too.
know who else is rocking that. But I can tolerate wools a little bit better now that I'm just wearing them more often.
Yeah.
But I still have like a limit.
Yeah. So how is this for you?
This is okay. Like it's my cardigan. It's the same yarn as my cardigan, so it's fine. But
yeah,
when I'm wearing the cardigan,
but for me,
you
this
will
is
see
just
me
fine.
go and just like scratch my shoulder a little bit because so we are gonna have a thunderstorm. It was such a beautiful day today. My weather app said thunderstorm. I was like, you lie.
And here it is.
Yeah.
Okay, you can probably hear it.
Because I have like the worst weather app in the world. Sometimes they'll say, oh, it's a little cloudy out when there's like a downpour. And I'm like, do you just not have a window?
Do you not care?
So we are apparently going to have a thunderstorm.
Yes.
Okay.
Now for her, it's a little itchy. For me, this is perfectly good. So if you're not super sensitive
to wool, man, it's the scales. Because she's always telling people that, oh, you might just be sensitive to the lanolin. And I'm just like, no, it's the scales.
Well, some people are. Some people are sensitive to the lanolin.
I'm not.
They break out in rashes. It's like a thing.
It's the scale.
I'm not sensitive to lanolin. Matter of fact, my favorite lotion that I'm using right now has lanolin in it. So I'm not sensitive to lanolin.
So.
But what I can tell you about this pattern is if you want to make a sweater or vest, go ahead, use this pattern. The pattern is so well written. Everything is really thought out. Her name is Lily Kate France.
Does she have a YouTube channel? I feel like that name is familiar.
Yes, she does.
Okay.
Because yeah, you know what? I know she does because I use one of her tutorials in the pattern because she suggested that you do a tubular cast on, and I'm glad I went with that because it gives a beautiful neat edge along the bottom of the thing. Now, the tubular cast on is a pain in the butt. I'm going to tell you right now, it's a pain in the butt. And that was what took the longest time on the day that I cast this on, was doing that cast on, because you are twisting the yarn over and over again to make knit stitches and purl stitches, and the yarn is literally spiraling around your needle. So when you cast that thing on and around, do not try to join it in the round on that first round. It will be impossible, and you will curse the world. So what I did was I cast it on and I knit for about an inch. And once I had a small band of knitting, I then joined it. And it was easy to see. It was easy to straighten everything out because that first row is going to be fiddly and impossible to straighten out. So I do have a tiny gap in the bottom of my sweater, which I will match stitch close. And no one will be the wiser except for you guys, because I told you. You guys will.
I'm trying to work on that. I'm trying to not point out all the things that are wrong with something once I finished it. I do want to just share oh yeah, I made some mistakes and here's what I learned and blah blah blah. But I don't want to be like, oh, see, I messed up right here.
Yeah, there's no need for that whatsoever. If you're sharing to save somebody else the error, sure. One of the things I like that she does in the pattern, she talks about, rather than talking about the wrong side and the right side, she talks about the knit side and the purl side. Because, since you're not working, typically when you're knitting on the outside of the garment.
So would you consider this vest reversible? I mean, could you wear it on either side?
You'll have a slightly different look because the one little detail, well, actually it's not just one. All the details are the knit stitches. So this one looks sideways, so it looks like a Vico braid. There's one that runs up the center in both the front and the back. So all that detail will be hidden if you just want the vest to look like a just plain little vest. And it's going to be a V-neck vest. And I like the shape of it because it's wider at the top and it tapers a little bit. So I think it's going to be a great shape for me. And I am not going to make it super long. It's going to stop just at my natural waist. So overall, very happy with it. And the pattern is so thoughtfully written that it's really wonderful to work with. So thank you, Lily Kate France. And you want to check out her tutorials because Like I said, that first row, and if you don't know not to try to join that crazy cast on, that's where she tells you. Doesn't say that in the pattern. Now, I wouldn't have tried to join it anyway because I typically, when I make things in the round, that's what I typically do anyway. I just join it after the fact. But you need that information if you don't know. So use a tutorial. So really great pattern. But that's all I'm working on. There you go. And during sentence stitch, I work on my blanket because it's all garter stitch, so it's easy to do.
Yeah, we talking.
Yeah, we do. Speaking of sit and stitch, we're not having sit and stitch. Well, actually, by the time you guys see this, it will be after Easter. Yeah. So we're taking a break Easter Sunday, and like I said, I'm on TV right now. So there we go. But Sundays from 1 to 3, we have sit and stitch. Do Zoom in and join us. It's on Zoom. It's very relaxed. We're happy to see you when we can, and we miss you when you're gone. And when you come back, we're happy to see you again. So that's sit and stitch. You have anything else
that I'm making? No. Oh, well, I have my skirt that I'm sewing.
Yeah,
so I usually have a crochet pattern going and then a sewing pattern going. So I made a 2-piece outfit. I sewed a 2-piece outfit. It was the first thing I made, but I didn't realize that the skirt was a straight skirt and did not taper. And I really, really, really want the taper. So I just found a PDF pattern. I was like super curious about PDF patterns and how you assemble all of that and make that work with, your printer printing 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper. And because I was able to get, it was like, the way you said. I was like, but the paper's like this and the pattern's like this. But so I wanted to try it, but of course I didn't want to spend any money up front. So I watched this video on YouTube that had resources for finding free PDF patterns. And it was one of those websites called Sew House 7. And the pattern is called the Elemental Skirt. And I put the pattern pieces together the other night. I haven't cut it out yet. But I think it's going to work. I think it looks like it'll be a skirt when it grows up. I don't know. So basically my 2-piece pink outfit that I made, I'm going to just replace that skirt with this one because without the skirt tapering, there's just too much fabric at the bottom. So when you ruche it, it looks weird. So I just need a little bit less fabric down at the bottom of the skirt.
Reasonable.
But also just, I made my camisole twice, and the second time I just did better than I did the first time. I just did. So I feel like, okay, let's make another skirt, and I bet it'll, just look a hair better than that first one did. So with crochet, I don't like to make the same thing more than once typically. But with sewing, I feel like that's going to be the thing to do because I really need to just polish these skills because they're so very minimal at the moment.
Are you going to do the ruching at the sides of this new skirt?
Yeah, because what I'm going to do is just take them cords out of the old skirt.
Since you already made it, right?
And stick them in the new skirt. So yes, it's still going to have the side ruching. Did you add the pictures?
Oh, I did. Oh, there's pictures. So do you want to show the pattern first, or do you want to
show the skirt first?
Okay. So that's the new skirt.
Yeah, it's just a knit taper. That I believe is the shorter length. I'm doing a midi length version, but yeah, that's just the basic skirt. And then I have a picture of all the pattern pieces laid out. So as you can see, they come numbered, and there's a little map they give you, a little thing that shows you how to put them in order.
And how was that?
It was fine because as you can see, the numbers are very, very clear. So it matched the little map exactly. And the only thing was printing out at the right scale. I had to figure out what printer settings to use to make sure the pattern pieces were the right size. But what PDF patterns do, I have learned, is they give you a little square and they tell you to print that first page with the little square first and measure the square. It should be, was actually 2 squares, one inscribed inside the other. And the outer square should be 2 inches by 2 inches. The inner square should be 4 centimeters by 4 centimeters. So you measure both of those. And if those are in fact 2 inches and 4 centimeters, then it means your pattern's going to print out at the right scale.
Oh.
If those squares are off, your pattern will be off. So I just kept changing my printer settings and then printing that test page over and over again, and until I found the printer settings that gave me the right size square.
Oh, wow.
And then I was able to print out the skirt.
Just be aware, all this is happening like after midnight.
No. This was before midnight because you were still awake.
Oh, okay.
This was the first.
I had just gone to bed though.
The first time, let me tell you what happened. I printed this skirt out twice, the pattern, but the first time I did it, yes, it was after midnight, and I didn't realize, even though my square was the right size, some of the pattern itself had just gotten cut off. There was a little issue with the margins, so I had to make sure the margins were right and that my test square was the right size, and I did that much better the second time. And then like we ran out of paper, so like half of my pages were pink the first time. It was just like, well, we have some pink printer paper, but yeah, it went much better. By the second time I printed it, we bought printer paper, so now everything's the same color.
There you go.
But it wasn't that hard, but it is very tedious. This particular company, they have a little star on each half of the page where they're supposed to meet, and you just want to match up those stars. So you have to match up the stars on the side and on the bottom. So it's just tedious, but it really wasn't difficult.
Good.
So now I just have to cut it out. But I think I want to like trace it and use like craft paper or something instead of trying to work with all those little pieces that are taped together currently. But we'll see. I might just go with what I have because I have it already.
Yeah, it's already done.
But yeah, that's my sewing project that I'll be working on. I'm still going to use that same pink knit fabric because I do have quite a bit of it. And like I said, I bought enough to make each piece twice. And guess what? I'm making the skirt a second time.
There you go.
So it all worked out.
You know what I was just thinking? Could you put that on the fold and just trace half of it?
What do you mean?
The pattern.
That's 2 halves.
Oh.
Both of those, it's 2 pieces.
Both of those go on the fold.
Yes. Because one is the front and one is the back.
Got
and
it.
You're just sewing up 2 side seams.
Okay.
So.
And did it include seam allowance, or do you have to add your seam allowance?
I believe the seam allowance. I have to look at the instruction page again, but I think there is a seam allowance.
Okay. That is cool.
But the instructions are very detailed. They give you, recommendations for which fabrics to use, and yeah. And then they have like a lot of different sizes. So they have, plus sizes. The skirt goes up to, I forget, like 28 maybe or 30. So you're getting a lot for
a free pattern.
Yes, for a free pattern. So I'm very happy. But because the whole PDF pattern thing was an experiment for me, I did not want to spend money. Mom was like, well, there's places you can send that to get it printed. I was like, but then you'd have to pay money.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be taking the free out your free. So I want to keep my free and my free.
That's pretty cool though. And I do like that you could try it before you buy, because now, okay, this is something I wouldn't mind doing.
Right.
Yeah, you didn't buy a pattern and go like, oh, I kind of hate this.
And now I know the right printer settings. It's very important.
Did you write it down somewhere?
I didn't. I should.
Yeah, please. Write it down somewhere. Okay. So, we've been like doing a little store walking.
Very little.
A little bit. Just a little bit. Well, we met up at Barnes & Noble the other day, and I got the new Noro magazine. Very happy with it. One of the things I do like about Noro is that it's both a knitting and crochet magazine. It says right here in the corner.
It's still weighted a little bit heavily, I think, towards knitting, but that's okay.
But it's not like a whole magazine full of knitting and one crochet pattern, which is what we typically see.
Oh, they have, I think, maybe 3 shawl patterns in here where they did a knit version and a crochet version so that they're meant to look similar.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see that very often, so that was cool.
I like that.
I'm surprised this yarn is like all solid colors because Noro, is known for their multicolored yarns.
A new yarn called Asagni. I don't know how to say that.
Where is it? Asaginu.
And it's interesting. It's a linen and paper yarn. So
what are you doing when you're out in the rain?
praying. Well, the linen's going to give it strength. So I don't think it's like going to like melt away or anything like that.
That's what I'm worried about. Like it's going to be like wet paper and it's just going to.
But I bought the magazine because I fell in love with this pink guy right here. And I'm knitting that. That's just the bottom line. That's what's going to happen. I'm going to knit that. Am I going to buy Asaginu?
Mm-hmm.
No. Because I have a linen and silk that I would really prefer to use more.
Well, do you know what weight that is? Is it a finger weight?
Oh, I don't have a clue. I don't care because I'm going to knit in a DK.
Okay.
You can do that.
Okay.
You can go, oh, this isn't a fingering weight, but I'm going to knit in a DK. But I really like the patterns. And overall, that one pattern was the one that was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. But there's a lot to see. And I'm going to do a flip through of this magazine. I think it's one that people should see what's in here. It's full of summary things. And I found that they didn't have like a lot of unrealistic summer things, at least not unrealistic for where we live. You know, I look at the European magazines and I'm imagining that in Europe, it's not that warm even in the summer.
In some parts.
In some parts. Maybe Northern Europe is just not that warm, except for that one day in July or something. Because I see a lot of wool still in the summer issues. And I'm like, but... And that's a complaint that I have about knitting magazines, is that sometimes they're a little aspirational and they're not realistic to what a knitter like me would be knitting, or a crocheter like Chris would be crocheting in the summer. I don't need a cable sweater to walk on the beach in.
It depends on where you are.
It does. And maybe I'm not target market for that because I live in sticky Jersey. And if I were walking on the beach in that cabled sweater made out of even like fingering weight wool, I would pass out and die. The tide would come in and just sweep my body out because I'd be done. I'd be cooked.
You're a mess.
But I really liked what I saw. There's several different kinds of t-shirts. There are summery tops, just cute stuff that's kind of appropriate for the season that I live in. So I really like it. And the other thing that I did not know until I just looked it up, because I'm going to do my flip through. So I pull pictures out of what's in the magazine and do my flip through with it. You can buy the individual patterns.
Mm-hmm.
But I went ahead and bought the magazine because the magazine is $9.99, but the individual patterns are $5.
Oh, yeah.
So it's better to just get the magazine because you may make a couple of things out of it.
And then do you save money off of that cover price if you subscribe?
Probably. Most magazines, yeah. I don't even know if you can subscribe to Noro.
Why would you subscribe?
Because I didn't see anything
you can't subscribe to. That's weird.
Because a lot of times Noro is sold in yarn shops, and I don't see an option to subscribe to it. But I don't know if that's true. I will check. Look, see, even on the publisher page, they would usually say right here, oh, here's how you can subscribe. See, available at local yarn stores and local bookstores and online. So you can't subscribe to it.
How odd.
Yeah, it's really different. But like I said, so that option is available. So let's say you're like me and this one pattern just completely turned your head all the way around, because that's what happened. I did a Linda Blair with this one. You could buy it, but for $4 more, you get all the rest of the patterns too. Plus valuable information, like, you know, that paper and linen yarn that they're showing you the patterns in. Well, they tell you how you might care to take care of that.
Yeah, how do you block it?
With an iron. They tell you water is essential to blocking this. So but they don't want you to soak it. They want you to spray it and, you know, then stretch it out and then iron it with a steam iron. But you would not necessarily know that without this actually rather well-written article. Also, they tell you the real skinny about the care instructions. You're wearing a garment made of linen and paper. they're like, you want to dry clean this. Okay. Yeah, I think it would be cool.
I need to see that yarn in person. I need to like feel it and like.
You know, the wool walk is coming up. Maybe that's something we can ask around.
Something I would just buy online and take on faith. No.
You know what? Universal had a linen paper yarn for a hot second there. To me, it's not something I would buy to make garments out of. If I was gonna do linen, I would do 100% linen, or I'd do linen and silk. Or cotton and linen is nice too.
Crocheting with linen is going to be really nice because linen, woven linen wrinkles real bad. Once you get out the car, it's just like. So I think the crochet, you'll still get the feel and the drape of the linen, but you won't have all the wrinkles.
Yeah, and the lightness.
If I will walk at all, I've decided I'm not going to buy any wool because I have a lot already. So I'll be looking for linen, silk, cotton, tencel, whatever else. I'm specifically looking for other kinds of fibers to work with. I like wool now that I've gotten to know it a little bit better. Yes, I do like my merino.
Yes, you do.
Okay, we're not going soft yarn shame people.
No, you don't have to
I like my merino, but I really want more silk yarn. I like silk.
Yeah, it's lovely stuff.
Bamboo. I'm looking for different fibers right now, so that's what I'll have an eye out for. That's on my shopping list. That's the best I like.
Yeah, Crystal kind of fell in love with this vest.
I'm going to make that.
Which I also like very much. And she's just going to crochet one very similar to it. But like I said, a flip through is coming. So keep an eye out. If you want to know what's coming with us, what we're doing, where we're going, do subscribe to our newsletter. A link to the newsletter will be in the description bar under this video, and lots of other things too. So check out the description bar. I also do show notes that are on the website at knitsheep.com. And did I tell you Chris has a website now? It's called Crochet Chris. So if you want more in-depth information about her makes, that is where that stuff is.
And you go to my blog right now.
What happened?
If you go to my blog, currently I have an article about showing all of the patterns I hauled from my PDF pattern haul. They were all free. So I was very excited. And I got like 9 patterns and from like several different websites. So it'll just give you an idea. And I also linked to the original video that showed where you get a bunch of free PDF patterns. So you can check out things that I chose, and you can check out the original video to find some resources for getting free PDF patterns.
So yay.
Yay indeed.
I'm down with a free pattern.
You gonna keep the banner on the screen?
I sure am.
Okay.
CrochetChris.com, everybody. You really want me to move the banner? You don't really want me to move the banner. There we go.
Okay. But yeah, so you can see all the free PDF patterns that I have gotten. I picked up a few.
See, I did not even know about that.
Yeah.
And I was just on Crochet Chris. That must be pretty new.
I'm trying. I have a goal of having at least a post a day, Monday through Friday. We will see if that happens. I don't know. No promises, but that is the goal. So yes, there will be something new each day.
I only do a blog post twice a week on Knit Sheep. So I'm not my goal is not as lofty as hers. But yeah, there's free patterns out there. They vary. This last skirt pattern you have looks wonderful.
Yeah, it looks simple is what I like about it. Like if you were going to ask me, well, how do you make a skirt? This is what I would say. Or like, oh, sew up the seams, make a tube. And then they just have like a waistband facing and you attach that and your elastic goes in there.
Look at you talking about waistband facings. You go, girl.
Okay.
Because you know what? She's moving from, oh my gosh, I haven't sewn in, 12, 15, 20 years to, oh yeah, just put a waistband facing in, sew up the side seams. Go ahead, girl.
We'll see.
I like that.
It always sounds simple.
That's so much of life. I want to show you guys something. Now, last week I talked about the bag of goodies that we're putting together for the lucky winner of our 300 subscriber celebration contest. I just gave it that name. How you like that name?
Okay.
So, what is going in the bag this week for when we get to 300 subscribers? We've been talking about Noro. This is a skein of Noro Curion Air. Beautiful blue and green with surprising little pops of purple. And it is 100% wool, lightly spun. So that is going in the bag. Ooh. That's the wrong bag. This is the right bag.
Looks smaller.
I know, right? This is the right bag right here. Oh, and you know what? I put something in there and I forgot to tell you guys. This is a spindle kit. This is actually my favorite spindle. It's the Babe 5 Garden spindle. It's a great learning spindle for a beginner. Plus, I've included an ounce of fiber that you can, if you were spin curious and wanted to learn about spinning, now you'll have a spindle and some fiber to get you started. So 2 things going in the bag.
Lisa was talking to me about spinning once, and I was like, no, I'd rather die than spin. And she's like, that seems extreme. I was like, DYE? I'd rather die yarn than spin yarn. I was like, no, it's not that serious. No, I'd rather, if we're talking about things to do with yarn other than knitting and crochet, my choice would be dyeing yarn rather than spinning yarn.
But this is the fun bag of goodies. And what I will be doing is when we hit 300 subscribers, so do like and subscribe. Mom would be happy and you might get a prize. I will go through the subscriber list and use a random number generator to pick somebody at random. And then they will get their bag of goodies. And there's all kinds of wonderful things in this bag. I'm going to throw the bag in too. You know what I saw on Twitter this week? Pattern testing drama.
Oh, Lord. I don't pattern test.
That you know what? That's a touchy subject because some people enjoy doing it.
Yeah, no, I get that.
I say if you enjoy doing it, you go for it. But the issue becomes for me when the designer is not providing you what you need to test the pattern, like, a pattern. And you are expected to keep super detailed notes and essentially develop the pattern for this person. And you are also expected to take, pictures. I've seen just recently one person asked for the actual thing because they want to use it as a sample in their booth. So, but they didn't provide you any yarn. Yeah, I'm like, that seems like a lot. And somebody made a great point on Twitter. They said that, there is a line between someone being a customer and being a friend, and there's a blurring of that line. And that's why some people ask for all this sort of thing. And I'm like, you don't even know these people. How can you? I would be very loath to ask someone to do that sort of thing. And I don't know where
I know it's not realistic for designers to be able to afford to pay their testers. But there really has to be kind of a standard for what testing is and what it's not.
I agree with that.
Because it is free labor. It is something, they're making your product better. You're going to sell that product and you're going to make money from that. And the testers don't, receive anything from that. So, there should be a limit to how much you're able to demand of your testers for free or for like a free pattern or something.
Mm-hmm.
Because just because I don't know, I feel like it becomes like mission creep. Like it's
Yes.
like, oh, just here's a pattern that I wrote, and you make this thing, and you tell me if you found mistakes or whatever, or if you have a note about like, oh, maybe that's not the best needle size to use or whatever. Okay, fine. But anything beyond that, now you're getting into a territory where you're actually asking for more than pattern testing.
I think you're asking for tech editing.
Yes.
You're asking for
and
tech
some
editing.
people are asking for design assistance. They're asking for like consultation. Like, how exactly do I write this pattern? Um, that should not be included in the no money you're not giving people for pattern testing. So I think there just needs to be kind of like a pattern tester's bill of rights,
Something
where it's just spelled out very clearly. Here is what a designer gets to ask of you if you're pattern testing. Here's what you're agreeing to do when you're pattern testing. You're agreeing to follow that pattern. You're agreeing to work on the designer's deadline, because that's really important. But beyond,
and the deadline should be realistic, because yes, I told you guys 2 weeks for a sweater.
And explicit.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's just become very nebulous.
Yes.
Because it often starts with just asking your friends. Y'all gonna have to excuse me because my car alarm's going off for no reason.
Oopsies.
Oh, Jiminy Christmas.
But it was interesting to see how the conversation flowed, because you have so many perspectives on it. Because there are some people who genuinely like being on, having that insider feel.
Mm-hmm.
So they know this pattern is coming. They like learning new skills. They want to support that designer. Sometimes that's part of the.
That woman we just started watching, a YouTuber, I think her channel's called Arrow X, or her first name is ARO, and then it's new word, letter X. She makes sweaters almost exclusively from pattern testing. She's doing one sweater now, I think, from just like a already written pattern that she chose, but she does pattern testing almost exclusively, and that's just kind of like part of the fun of knitting for her, to work with the designers. And so she now has like relationships with a number of designers, so that some of them will actually ask her, request that she pattern test for them. But she's also a very fast knitter.
Yeah.
She's made, I think she's finished 9 sweaters so far this year.
Yeah. I will link to her YouTube and ours, because her work is really lovely.
But that's what she does. She is a pattern tester and she enjoys it. And that's fine. But, she's also has her boundaries, I'm sure, set. And because she knows some of these designers, they don't cross those boundaries. They're not asking her to design a sweater for her. I mean, we had someone in the store who told us that basically a pattern book that came out, they wrote some of these patterns and didn't get paid. They were supposed to be a tester, but that mission creep set in and they did way more than testing.
Yeah.
So especially if the testing ecosystem is going to remain free, it's going to be something that, people just don't expect a designer to pay their testers, which I have mixed feelings about, then it needs to be very clearly laid out. Like I would even say a contract that is written and, both parties agree to, for what the tester will do.
Exactly.
Because I don't know if it's the willingness to do something for free that makes people feel like, well, if you're going to do A, then surely you'll do B, C, and D. Like, no, it's just A.
Yes. Now, there was an interesting perspective that came up from some of the designers who were talking and having this conversation. They were like, look, people now want patterns in every size. And I couldn't afford to have the pattern tested in every size. But I'm like, you know what? You want to sell to people who wear every size. So because I'm a larger size, and you know what? I usually speak up for bigger people because I'm a bigger person. But what I've noticed is when I'm the one that opens up my mouth and says, hey, this should be in bigger sizes because here I am, a knitter or whatever I am. A few minutes later, a tiny person who is also a non-standard size but on the other end of the scale will say, yeah, I need petite sizes. But someone has to open the door and say, hey, you know, there's more sizes that need to be accounted for. So that was the counter argument to, well, we don't pay for this. And I'm like, well, if you're not going to be size inclusive, then say, okay, well, I don't want to be size inclusive. I only design for, size A to size B, which would be fine if that's what you're telling me. Because
But don't give your pattern tester, something that's small, medium, large and say, oh, but go ahead and make it 2X.
yeah.
Like, no.
Yeah, go ahead and make it 2X.
I'm not going to just write the new size for you.
Don't not really grade the pattern, because what some designers are doing, because this also came up in that conversation, are just making everything bigger. And that's not how bodies work. It's not how bodies work. So,
and again, I feel like it's what grading is one of those skills that's hard to like find specific instruction in.
Yeah, you have to go to school for that, really.
Either you're going to do the trial and error version, or you really need to find someone that's teaching that, and that's difficult.
It is.
There isn't a lot of resources in general, I think, for like how to be a designer. And I guess to some extent you understand that, people don't want everyone to be able to design things, because then maybe you won't buy from designers. But it is, even if you're not designing things to sell, that knowledge just becomes really useful and really important. Even if you just like, you make a sweater for yourself and you decide you're going to make one for a friend or a husband or a child or something, and you just need to make that one thing you made in another size, you need to be able to find this information. But it's not going to come from your testers.
No, it's not.
that's not where you get it from.
But that's another point that
I
came
understand
up,
that's on you as a designer, not on the tester.
That's another point that came up, because there was this one designer that says, she wants patterns specifically to be inclusive, and she understands that bodies are non-standard. So what she's doing in her patterns is giving you the information you need to make the adjustments you require. It's just like I was telling you guys, I have a bigger body, but I don't have broad shoulders. So I have narrower shoulders on a bigger body. So that's going to affect how things fit me. So if you tell me, hey, this width right here in my pattern as I wrote it is this much, and a lot of times they don't tell you what that width is supposed to be. If you told me what that width was, I could adjust that because I know my gauge.
Yeah. All schematics are not created equal either. That's a whole other conversation.
But this width on me is actually narrower than this width on Crystal, because she has broader shoulders than I do. Sorry. I didn't mean to tickle you. So I would support designers who are trying to give me the information I need. You do not need, for me, for the type of knitter I am, you don't need to make the pattern 60 pages long with every size. I
feel like you're unique in that regard, though.
Okay. Maybe
you're
I'm not
willing to do a little bit more work.
Yes,
I think.
But I find sometimes the instructions are confusing when you have 92 sizes, 92 numbers going across like that. That gets a little confusing. Yeah. But if you gave me some good schematics with all the measurements I needed.
But yeah, I feel like I understand why designers aren't doing that, because you're in the minority on that one.
Yeah, I am.
And honestly, I found the way US patterns are written, and I guess a lot of the UK patterns as well, with the line by line, row by row instructions, it hamstrung me. It really kept me from learning some things, because even though like I had made garments, when I decided to make my first sweater without a pattern, I had some sizing issues because I didn't understand the sizing and the shaping and the things that I needed to do to adjust the fit for myself. In fact, that first sweater, I don't think I even drew a schematic for it. So yeah, not everyone is going to work from just the component information. People like to have the row by row, step by step.
You do need some of that.
And a video tutorial.
But I found Japanese style patterns very freeing. And if I were going to write patterns, I would write them in that style.
Yeah, you're different.
I know I'm different.
You're different,
but
though.
I think if you gave people,
we're talking about a row by row, step by step infrastructure that I don't see changing anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to turn that particular tide.
So what do people need from your pattern in that kind of infrastructure?
But even within that ecosystem, you're still not getting all the information you need. Even though it's literally written row by row, stitch by stitch, I don't know what those stitches are supposed to add up to sometimes. I don't know.
That's a whole other thing.
I don't know if that's how long that width is how wide that width is supposed to be. I don't know how deep an armhole. How many times have you gotten patterns where they don't tell you how deep the armhole is supposed to be?
I've gotten patterns missing a lot of information. What are you talking about?
I'm like, how deep is this armhole supposed to be? I don't know. Because it's going to affect the length of the whole garment. Patterns written for someone whose breasts are up here. Like right under their neck. Who knows?
But so yeah, they're really,
it became a thing.
The thing is, the yarn world is the wild freaking west. There are so few things that are actually standardized. Even like the weights we have for these yarns, our little number system that we have in the US, what different people will call a fingering weight or a worsted weight are completely different. So even that, there's so little standardization. And I think there are areas where that's fine. And I think there are areas where things need to be more clear for people. And I definitely think the role of the pattern tester is one of those things that can and should be made standardized. And then individual designers will tweak things and offer their own unique things or what have you. But it should be very clear. Like, I think it's just the basic that your pattern tester should get a complete pattern. And it should be a complete pattern in the size you expect that tester to make.
Yes, I agree.
That's the floor.
Yeah. If you guys take a look, I'll try to link to the episode of Hoki Locatelli's podcast. She made this gorgeous sweater, just patterned over the entire sweater, sleeves, everything. And she was struggling for, I think she said at least a year to try to grade this pattern and keep that overall patterning in every size. And she finally had to give up and say, look, I can't grade this pattern and keep this complete all over pattern in every size. So you have people who are out there trying like that. But I think that there needs to be support for that too. And although she tried grading it, the testers in various sizes were all having troubles. So once she got away from her size, which was the first one she made, she couldn't figure out how to make it in every other size.
Also, part of the problem is that the process of designing is so opaque that, people who buy patterns don't really understand that's usually where you start as a designer, your size.
Yeah.
So it's not a slight. It's not that, they're choosing to not be inclusive, but you start with one size and then you have to adjust from there. And that is not always a simple matter. So I don't have it's easier for me to say because most patterns will have a size that fits me. But I also don't knock the designers that don't have all the sizes, because just from my limited experience designing my own things, it is a headache getting a thing to fit me, to then have to get it to fit other people in the abstract. It's not even like I have other people to try it on. Yeah. I can't even imagine. So we need to be talking about these things more, and people need to, it's all well and good to have your beautiful Instagram with all the finished objects and just this, oh, look, I designed this sweater and it's just done. But, you know, if you want some grace from the people who are buying your patterns, you also need to talk to them a little bit more honestly about the process so that they understand maybe why you haven't included certain things or why you weren't able to do, you know, some of the things that why you didn't get to film a video showing them how to make the sweater on top of designing the pattern, right?
I can respect someone saying, look, I don't know how to do it. I tried, but I can't do it. Remember that sweater? Mom and I were just talking about her My Precious sweater this morning. It's an all over crochet sweater with an all over diamond pattern on it. And in the pattern, the
one she wore the other day. Yeah.
The designer said, look, when you get to the sleeves, all I did was
make it work design.
Yeah, I got it together the way I could.
And if you find another way, it said in the pattern, if you find another way to do this.
Yeah, if you find a better way, do it that way. I can respect that rather than somebody just making something up that looked like it was going to be whatever, and then it may not work.
Because I know for me, I thought like designers were like these rarefied mystics who just received the knowledge. I did. I really did. I had no idea what went into the process. And I still wouldn't know today if I hadn't started designing my own things. So there really just needs to be more open conversation about learning, about establishing your own knowledge base for knitting and crochet. That there's just some things, you're going to have to level up your skills on your own. No one can do that for you. No one can give you that. And then like each side can understand the other just a little bit better.
Absolutely. Anyway, we've run a little long today.
We always run a little long. I don't consider this long anymore because this is where we end up all the time.
Anyway, thank you for joining us. If you are interested in this conversation, do let us know. Let us know about the patterns that you've bought that were graded. How did it work for you? What would you like to have? What information would you like to have in the pattern? I know what I would like to have in the pattern. I want measurements all over the doggone thing.
And let us know if you've been a pattern tester. And if you're a designer who has had to find pattern testers, let us know what that process is like. Because that is also another thing that's just like completely opaque. What are you looking for when you're choosing pattern testers? But yeah, just talk about your pattern testing experience because we would really like to know.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I've ever tested a pattern.
I haven't either.
So
anyway, guys, thank you so much for spending this time with us. Do like and subscribe. You'll make Mom really happy. And Steve, who commented last week, Mom was charmed.
She says hi.
She says hi.
Bye.
Bye-bye.